Welcome everybody to this very extra special community webinar. Those of you who aren't familiar with our community webinars, what we try and do is talk about issues and topics outside of Wakelet, right? So just things which we know are affecting educators. We try and have discussions. And I think that this is going to be a really interesting discussion today that we're going to have. This is all about lessons that have been learned during lockdown, right? So I think it was around March, beginning of this year. I mean, I don't have to explain this. I think everybody knows what happened. Yeah, and it's, you know, we've been under lockdown, and I think that we, as an edtech platform with a massive edtech community, we really, you know, felt the effects and heard firsthand at the challenges that educators were facing with school closures and that type of thing. And you know, the future's a little bit uncertain now, but we can hope and you know, hope and pray that everything's going to get a little bit better towards the winter. So yeah, I invited two of honestly my favorite people in the edtech space, Mario and Alberto Herraez, who are the eTwinz. And when we call them the eTwinz, you probably already noticed that they look very similar. Okay, that's not camera trick. Okay, Mario and Alberto have been amazing for Wakelet, really incredible, offering support, advice, ideas, and they help people across the world when it comes to lots and lots of different issues in technology, lots of different topics, creativity, and things like this as well. So I invited them along to talk about some of the lessons that they've learned during lockdown. Now, we want this to be a discussion, and we want to facilitate a discussion for you guys. So please use that chat box. Just a quick reminder, change it so that where it says to, change that to all panelists and attendees, because I'm seeing a lot of messages which are just coming through that only we can see, but that are really useful for everyone else to see as well. So make sure everyone does that. Patricia asks, where are Mario and Alberto from? They look Spanish. What do you think, guys?
We are. I'm Alberto and I'm Mario. Firstly, we are from Spain, but I mean, like, if you switch the names, we are super used to. So we are right now in Utah, in USA, United States, but we are originally from Spain. So that's why we look a little bit kind of Spaniards, right? And I'm sure you are wondering why we're in Utah, because like from Spain going to Utah, it's kind of weird, right? So, but we came to teach Spanish. We had the opportunity and we needed a new adventure. So here we are, right? Yeah.
Amazing. And what is it that you guys generally do, just so that everyone can understand a little bit about what do the eTwinz do, just before we jump into some of the awesome stuff which you're going to share with us today?
So I would say we have kind of like on the mornings, and then what we do after school. So I am a 6th grade teacher, and he's a 5th grade teacher, and we teach in Spanish immersion program, which means that everything we teach, every subject, it's in Spanish, right? For example, I teach science in Spanish, and all of the subjects, math, history in Spanish, and then after school we do a lot of consulting, we do a lot of like trainings, webinar, conferences. So it's like kind of like it is stressing to have kind of 2 jobs, but we really like it and we enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've noticed from working with you guys is just the passion, really passionate, and you're always in a different part of the world, you know, always traveling, events and that type of thing. So yeah. This is the first webinar that we're doing with Mario and Alberto, but hopefully it won't be the last. You know, I know you guys have a big wealth of knowledge that you can share with people across many different subjects, but I think that this is a really cool place to kind of jump in and talk, because you guys did a survey, right, about this whole issue. And you know, we're seeing in the comments now that some people aren't locked down, some people are locked down, some people might be locked down in the future, some people are coming out of lockdown. It's very messy right now across the world. Everyone seems to be having a different experience, but one of the things which I think unites educators during this time is that things are not normal, things are different, and teachers have to find different ways to educate, different ways to teach, and different ways to operate. So you guys did a survey, didn't you, which you'd like to share with everyone?
Yeah, sure. And one of the things that you said, that it is very positive, because, you know, like in all of these situations, we always need to think about the positive stuff, not only focus on the negative. And I think it's the most positive thing is like how the education community came together, right, supporting each other in these unknown times, because all of us are in the same situation. So I've seen teachers around the world collaborating, a lot, you know, I would say more than ever. And that's a good thing. And it's one of the good things about coronavirus, if we can find. Yeah, there are more, and we will be talking about these different kind of like what we have learned about all of this. But we wanted to start with like showing this survey that we did, the results of this survey. And so many teachers, hundreds of teachers completed this survey. And this was the first question: what's the biggest challenge for you during the transition to remote learning? Um, we can see here the results. So the orange is the first choice, and the blue is the last choice. And in the middle, there are like different, like second position, third position, fourth position. So we can see in these results that most teachers face a lack of devices or internet connection with their students. And that's something that we can't, I mean, like teachers can't do anything about it. Just try to deal with it as, I mean, as we can. But we really can't do anything about it. And we know a lot of teachers in different countries around the world that they came up with some solutions that are just, I mean, it just blows our mind, you know, like through WhatsApp, you know, or through all of those apps that are not created for education, you know. So we've seen how teachers have, you know, got creative and you know, came up with different ways to teach because they didn't have internet or resources. And also like these kind of give us another perspective of the issue, because for example, we teach in a really wealthy area. So we are facing this kind of problems. Like every kid in our school has a computer, or like most part of them, and has internet connection at home. So we didn't have this problem. But when we did this survey that teachers around the world completed, kind of open our eyes, you know, like kind of open our mind, and we can see in these results that there are more of the problem. There are more like maybe structural problems in our society that we may need to start looking at those for the future. Because if we call it digital gap, if students are struggling with the remote learning situation, if they don't have the devices or the internet to have this connection or to kind of like support this learning, they're going to be struggling even more. And also, we will talk about social emotional learning, but this situation creates also a lot of anxiety in students and parents and everything. So, and teachers. The kind of more results in on your screen. Communication with parents was also a big issue. Same level of anxiety, of I would say like level of frustration because it's well. Like a right. If the student doesn't know how to do something, he or she will ask the parents, and if they don't have the solution, you know, the level of frustration just keep increasing, and you get an email.
I think there was a lot of
nice email, not a nice one for sure.
There was a lot of parents, I think, who during lockdown were they had like a newfound appreciation for teachers because, you know, all the questions that their kids ask and the challenges that they face, they realize like, you know, of course I'm going to help my kid out as my child. But for such a long time, it's been the teacher who's been doing this, you know what I mean? And it's almost been like that. Educators in particular have there's a new appreciation for them, at least from parents. We've got a few comments come through about that first one, about the issue of lack of devices and internet connection. Bruce Reich has said that the digital divide is real, and that in New Jersey they've pledged to get 230,000 students who don't have a device to get them a device and Wi-Fi connection as well, which is amazing. And I think that we should see more governments and authorities and school districts attempt to do that, because I know that it's a real issue. And I think that even us at Wakelet, right, we made the assumption, and we're very silly and naive, but we understand when we make mistakes. We made the assumption that just, you know, every kid's got a laptop, right? Like every kid's got a laptop or a phone, and every kid's got internet. Of course, that's not the truth. And we quickly realized that was an issue, you know. And we had teachers who were using Wakelet and then printing off collections, because you can print off a collection as a PDF and then hand delivering it to their students, which is amazing. And I think that you said we've seen some really incredible things that educators have done to try and help bridge that gap. But it makes sense why that's number one for sure.
Yeah. And the communication with parents, we realized that it's the second biggest one. We realized that during remote learning, the parents are in our classroom as well, right? Because we need to give the same instructions that we give to students to parents, because we are not with the students. So if the students have a problem, they're gonna go to their parents. It's the first people probably that they're gonna go to. So those parents need to have a solution.
Yeah.
That's why I think that it's a very good practice would be to send the same instructions that we send to the students to parents, because they need to know what to do. And then the 10th one on the bottom of the survey, it's kind of funny to see that most part of teacher had the motivation to do remote learning, but you can find also like some of them that like place this as a first choice, like number one. So some of them didn't have the motivation, and I think that everyone, or I speak for myself, like I reached a point where I was done with it. I was like, okay, I need a break. I can't find the motivation anymore. Like this is taking too long. This is frustrating. Like my students are not like motivated anymore. So I think that everyone can kind of relate to that part.
I think it's really interesting, and it makes sense after speaking with so many teachers to understand that lack of motivation is the last one, because I think that when you enter the profession like teaching, you have to be very, very self-motivated, and I think that in the face of this, I remember putting a video out in March, early March, because immediately as soon as school closures became possible, teachers were preparing, and a lot of teachers struggled, but they really wanted to find ways that they could continue teaching the students whilst they're from home. Sometimes it didn't work. You know, sometimes the logistics and the places, the structural elements weren't in place in order to facilitate that, right? And we had I've spoken to a few teachers who are incredibly frustrated by that, but that motivation never left. It was never a case of, oh, I'm going to get a few more months holiday this year. It's never, you know what I mean? It's very much like, no, we're gonna find a way. So I think it's fascinating that makes sense. I think one of the things that I can see in the chat is that a lot of people agree with that. I think that if this group was to take this survey, you'd probably have the same results, that the lack of devices and internet is a serious issue. We've also got a question here from Kelly, who asks, like, what do you recommend for parents whose first language is not English? So she had students in middle school tell the parents that they had completed assignments when they hadn't, and then Kelly doesn't speak any other language other than English, and it's often hard to communicate with parents. And I think that Kelly is essentially saying that the kids were telling the parents that they'd done the homework, and and because the parents couldn't really understand English very well, they didn't. So any tips or ideas, just whilst we're on the subject, of how to kind of cross that language divide?
So I think that happens even in English. Like, it happens to everyone. Because there are kids, they're gonna try to get away with. Like when we were kids, we were worse than that. So we understand that. So I think that communication with parents is key. Like send a weekly newsletter. That would be great with everything they need to do. And even like, well, you can translate the weekly newsletter to Spanish. Even if you don't speak Spanish, use any translator. It will not be great, but at least you are communicating with them, and they will get the main idea of what you are talking about. Like even if the translation is not 100% accurate, they will get the idea, and they will get what the students need to do. And then communication with parents. That Alberto, for example, he met one-to-one with the students and family once a week with every student, kind of like a tutoring. But if you don't have the option to do that because they don't speak English, you can send a weekly email. It takes, I don't know, like, if you have 300 students, you're not gonna send an email every week, but try to do once every 2 weeks, like that. Just a quick email, like, how are you doing? Checking in, like, how do you feel as a student? How do you feel as a parent? And like, how can we help? This is what your student is missing. He didn't complete something. He needs to work on this area, something like that. Or not even like to all the students, just try to identify those students that need more help, and you can focus on those ones and check with them, using the translator, using those tools that even, again, if the full text is not like 100% accurate, like they can get the main idea, and they will be, they will like that.
Yeah, and we've got a lot of comments talking about Microsoft's Immersive Reader, which is an amazing technology. We've got Microsoft Immersive Reader plugged into Wakelet, so we've got teachers who, like you mentioned, Mario, are using sending digital newsletters to parents. And quite often, the parents' English isn't their first language. So having that immersive reader icon, it's on everything on Wakelet. You don't have to add it; it's just there standard. They just click it, and then it can translate the text into over 70 different languages. So that's another cool way, I think. Having the technology do that can make a big difference as well.
And then like you can even include it in the browser, right? If you have a web-based, I don't know, platform for your grades or whatever, if you include the Microsoft Translator in the browser or Immersive Reader, right? You can try. The parents can translate the theater or the grades or whatever.
Awesome. Yeah, I think we've got plenty of really good ideas there. Thank you so much for sharing that. Just guys, what did you, when you sent the survey off and you got the results back, did it surprise you, the results, or did you, was it kind of as you imagined?
It kind of did. It kind of did. I was like, I really thought that lack of devices was going to be the first one. We knew that. I think we really knew that. But we were surprised with, like, for example, communication with parents. We didn't think that it was that big of an issue. Right? I think that, for example, number 7, lack of professional development, I thought it was going to be top 3 maybe, because we've seen a lot of teachers complaining about that they didn't get enough training, or they didn't get enough training from their organization and all of that. Yeah, and that takes us to this data that also was a question of the survey. That how well were you prepared to do this transition in March? And most part of the teachers said 6.5 out of 10. So it's like almost all, like, they were okay prepared, but not really well prepared. And then 67% of the students got the teacher got a PD from their district, and then now they feel that they are ready 8 of 10, which is a good increasing, but surprised us that just like 70% of the teacher got a PD from the district.
Yeah, that's good. Let us know in the comments, anyone who's attending, how do you feel like your district or your school system support you very well when it comes to preparing? Really interesting to see that stuff. Sorry, Mario, please continue. What we are seeing right now is that districts, what we feel districts and institutions, they were as overwhelmed as we were. So the thing is that they didn't have, I would say, PD ready, or even if they had it, it wasn't great. But what we are seeing right now is with the back to school training and all of that, all of those districts, they are doing a great job right now. So it's been a big difference, because they were not ready before. Even if they were ready, like, I think no one was ready for this situation 100%, right? So everyone was trying to survive, to do the best that we could, even districts or teachers, administrators. But right now, I think like we are more ready, and with the back to school night training and everything we are doing right now, I think we'll be more ready. And the districts I think the districts stepped up, and they are doing a good job now. I agree, and also this like whole situation kind of make us think about how was the PD before this happened. Teachers were getting a good PD, or teachers the PD was not that good. It was enough. It was not enough. So also like this kind of situation make us think about things that we need to change for the future, right? And maybe look at the way that administration or like districts or like organizations do PD. Reflect about that can be also a good thing moving forward for the future. Get those lessons, reflect on their practice as we teachers do normally, and see what we can improve for the future. And what would you advise educators to do who might not feel prepared? They may feel like there's a bunch of tech tools that they need to learn, that things are quite overwhelming, that they've got loads of resources coming at them. What kind of advice would you give to an educator who doesn't necessarily feel that prepared? Yeah, so I would say the first thing is that don't try 100 tools at the same time, right? It's because like when all of this started, we were taking on Twitter, webinars or whatever, and we saw articles like the top 55 tools for education, and that is crazy. Or a webinar that talked about the best 100 apps to do remote learning. That is so insane. Like, don't do that, please, like ever. So what I would suggest is right now, a lot of organizations like Wakelet or other, platforms,
you guys have a lot of resource online already, right? You have training, I mean, like PDs, you offer free PDs, webinars, you have tutorials, a guide, all of that. So if you want to start with a tool, you can do it by yourself, just trying to learn or even taking on other educators' work and all of that. So it's kind of easy right now to do it. And as I said, just get 2 tools, 3 tools at the most to start with. You know, those tools that fit that fit your kind of like your teaching style the best and your students' needs as well. So take just looking at those, your teaching style, your students' need, get 2 or 3 tools and start with those.
And like you don't need to use, as Mario said, like 12, 20 tools. I will say like make it simple. For example, if you are using Wakelet, you can use Wakelet for many things. Weekly newsletters, like activity with the students, like collaboration, like it has many ways to be used. So don't go to 10 tools, just like focus on 2 and make them work. Because if you present 20, 30, 40 apps or platforms to the students and to the parents, they're going to freak out. Like, okay, I need to remind like 120 passwords and my username, and even more important, how to access to the platform, you know? Yeah. So like they are get overwhelmed and they're going to be frustrated because it's too much for them. So just pick 1, 2 or 3 apps that work for you, apps like Wakelet that has like many uses, and you can like from there kind of maybe like the first month you are focused on 3, and then after 5, 6 weeks you can add another one, you know, like start simple and step by step.
I think that's incredible advice, honestly, because I think that's probably one of the issues that a lot of educators faced during this time was all of a sudden there's a big pressure to use technology. And for a lot of educators, it was the first time that they'd used the platform, you know, like literally, we had so many support requests come through from educators who were asking what we would think are very simple questions, but that to them are quite complex because it's the first time that they've, you know, picked up a computer and tried to do it. But I love what you guys said about, you know, folks, don't try and use every single tool under the book. And I do find it crazy having those top 100 lists, top 50 lists. It's like, no, like there's no way to do that, you know? But I think that also one of the things that people miss is find out what it is that you want to do as an educator, right? What is the main priority for you? Is it collaboration? Is it communicating? Is it trying to get as much information to the students as possible? Is it lesson plan? Whatever it might be, and then choose a tool that helps you do that, rather than finding a tool online and then trying to make it work in this particular way. It's like, no, discover what your motivations are first, and then find the tool after it. Awesome stuff. I think that's definitely inspired a few people to make comments in the chat. Let's just take a look quickly before we move on. We've got, let's see. Yeah, Linda's saying about the parents. Linda says that our parents hated all of the codes. She also says we think that they'll love Wakelet. We set up a school site for all teachers to post classroom information so parents can go to one place to access all teacher info. That's really good. Suzanne says, I had an advantage over my coworkers because I take lots of online courses. I think that's back to what you're saying. It's not necessarily, don't wait for the district or the school to support you. Instead, you know, do it yourself. You'll find like Wakelet, there are so many other tools out there that have the same culture and the same community where we offer you this free PD, if you will. And it's not always about the platform, it's about other stuff as well. What do you think, guys?
I think that it's the same, and it's not just about like a tutorial, right? You get like there are a lot of platforms. You guys do the same. That you just don't offer. There's a tutorial. This is how you log in, create a collection, all of that. You also give ideas. You know, this is how educators around the world are using Wakelet, right? And that is amazing because I always say that the best PD comes from teachers. Right?
Yeah, it's not stealing. It's like, you know, like we're helping each other. It's like the romance when they call it like cultural borrowing. Same thing. We're borrowing ideas from teachers. And just to make a comment on what you said about like the tools and the pedagogy and everything, like we often see teachers going to trainings or discovering a new app and asking themselves, how can I introduce this app to my classroom? I need to do this. Like, no, you don't need to do it. Like the pedagogy goes first, and then you pick the tool that goes with your lesson or with your unit. Pedagogy also needs to be in the center, also, like in the center of the learning.
Exactly.
Which is important. Like technology doesn't work without a good pedagogy. So we cannot put technology in the center of the learning, never. So just like
and it's the same that if you're using one tool and that tool is working very well, just keep using it, don't add any more. It's what we said, like technology needs to be a facilitator. Technology needs to help you. If you're using a tool that it's not helping you, or it's taking more time, or it's doing the same as you can do in face-to-face, like just don't use it, right? It's a waste of time. So as like technology is here to help, not to kind of like
complicate your
life, right?
That's really good. I
cool,
think
it's doing great.
I think honestly more educators need to hear that. I think that more educators need to hear, look, it's okay that you're not necessarily using tech in your classroom. Like, it's okay. Do you know what I mean? There are so many really amazing, effective learning outcomes that you can achieve without any use of technology. I think that technologies shouldn't be there to facilitate a lesson. It should be there to enhance it, I think, always, It's not going to save the day. It's just there to enhance it and maybe make it a little bit easier or make it more fun or more interactive, that type of thing. So that's really, really good. I completely get that. On the points that you guys made about this, we wanted to talk a little bit about the social emotional learning and teacher well-being, because that was obviously on the list. What do you guys think about how what lessons, I guess, have you learned about that particular thing, the social, emotional health, the well-being of a teacher coming into this lockdown phase and coming out of it?
If you follow us on social media or at work or wherever, you know that we are big, supporters and advocates of social emotional learning. Yeah. We practice social emotional learning a lot in our classrooms, and we see like that necessary, and we truly think that social emotional learning should be taught in every single classroom around the world. We need to support those students emotionally as well.
Yeah, and like we realized about that, we knew that it was important because we love it and we think it is very important. But after all of this pandemic, we think that it is even more important than we thought, and that's a lot because it was in our classes and all of that. And made a huge mistake, to be honest. At the beginning, when we transitioned from the face-to-face model to this remote learning model, we were so focused on content, right? We kind of lost our identity as teachers and our I would say, environment as a class, because we were so focused on content. We were giving like 5 days, 6 days to create lessons. So we were just creating those lessons, creating those resources to send those out to our students, right? So we kind of lost the focus on social emotional learning. We were too focused on content. And then we saw that it wasn't working. So we were like, all right, we lost our identity, so we need to change that. So we completely changed our way to do things. So we started to kind of have like just a one call per week, and it was recess time. We didn't talk about academics, anything, like just to have fun, to talk. We were more focused at the end of the remote learning on their social emotional mental health. Hey, how are you doing? And all of that. And that was great, because we got students just coming to us saying, hey, because we've been talking a lot about this. Hey, I'm not motivated. I need help. How can you help me out, to be motivated? Because I just can't, and have a student doing that, it's huge for us.
And we need to realize that if the students are not happy, if they are not feeling good, they are not going to learn. There is no way they learn. So I think that focusing on mental health, that they are good, they are safe, because we don't know what's going on in their families. Maybe like their grandpa or the grandma is sick, is ill with the COVID. And we need to keep that in mind. We cannot ask that the students to performance as well as other student because she's struggling at home. And we need to be flexible. And for that, we need to learn what's going on. Have that connection with students. That connection.
Part of that is create an environment where our students are, they feel safe to talk about emotions and to talk about, how they are feeling that day, or what in the assignments, if they had a problem or stuff like that. So I think that the first step would be create that environment, even face-to-face or online. And we can even just open our hearts and say, hey, guys, I am struggling as much as you are. I am human as well. This is how I am feeling. we are all of us on the same boat.
Yeah, I think,
and create that environment where you talk about your emotions and they are seeing you as human, because sometimes our students, they think that like we are not humans.
Yeah. Humans are coming, right? Well, so I think that I think that the point, to me, one of the two main ideas or points in social emotional learning to create this safe environment, first of all, is talk about emotions and feelings, helping students define them and helping students identify them, because some students are, okay, I have this pressure in my chest, but I don't know what that's anxiety. They don't know how to recognize those emotions, and helping them recognize, to name what's going on. It's really important. And also what Mario said, like, we need to be the role model in that safe environment. We need to be the ones who also like tell students stories about like how we feel, about how we struggle, about like, because we always say that we cannot teach kindness yelling at the students, right? We ask the students to be kind and at the same time yelling at them because they made that mistake. We need to be the role models. They're like, be kind with them, like ask them how they are doing. It is the same with social emotional learning. We cannot ask the students to open their hearts if we are not doing that with them.
Yeah, I think that's really makes a lot of sense, and I think that everybody in the audience really appreciates it as well. Kathy says that she likes the idea of at least once a week talking online without any connection to school or education. I think that's important for everybody. Even the Wakelet team during lockdown, we really struggled. We missed each other. We missed the family sense of the team. We missed the usual routine. We missed spending time in the office together, sharing ideas around. And we made it so that we would have times where we'd watch movies together as a team using like a plugin for Netflix, which was really good. We'd have lots and lots of video calls and voice calls. We'd just do our best to remind each other that we still existed, and that we were there for each other when they needed help. But yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. I think that a lot of the time, social and emotional learning, specifically the emotional side of it, doesn't tend to be spoken about much in school. I would recommend that everybody in the chat takes a look at the webinar series that we've done with Erica Sandstrom, which is all about mindfulness. We've done 2 so far. We've got another one coming next month, but they're really good because she's an educator who really understands the importance of emotional health with her students. And she does exercises with them where she'll take 2 minutes and do some yoga on the chair, or she'll take 5 minutes and just have like a class discussion in a chat that's nothing to do with school. I think it really makes a difference. Jian says that her district's mantra is compassion over compliance. That's beautiful. And Tisha's got a question. Tisha asks, what would you say is your advice for administrators who are dealing with emotional support for teachers, because it's been a difficult time for teachers as well? Would you give any, before we move on to the next point, would you give any tips for teachers on how to improve their emotional well-being during this time?
That's another big discussion, right? Like teachers' well-being, and we struggle a lot. We don't know how to say no, and we don't know when to stop working, and we don't know how to set up those boundaries and draw that line between work and life. So it's something that we have struggled a lot, and we have found really useful like schedules and also support from the administration. Just like it doesn't take much to the principal or the administration to stop by the teacher's classroom and just talk about not anything related with the school, not students, no problems, just how are you feeling? Do you need a mental health day, sick day? Because I think those mental health sick days should be allowed to take for teachers. If they're feeling overwhelmed, if they're feeling bad, why not? They can take one of those days.
But it's more, like about, as Alberto said, just talk with the teachers, like, hey, how are you doing? Not about anything related with the school. How's your family? How are your kids doing with remote learning? How can I help? Do you need, whatever, how's your family? As you guys say, how can I help? Nothing related with the school. So I think that helps.
And then team building activities, we love them, like to have a strong faculty that support each other. Activities that don't have anything to do with the school related as well, to meet each other, to kind of build that relationship, to have, again, that safe environment in your building for teachers to support each other, because everyone has bad days, right? And if we have that support during that bad day, like things are gonna go worse.
Yeah, and I think it's also about it's about the culture in the environment that you're in. Because if you're in a culture where you feel that you can't share those things, I know that a lot of people, they go to work, they study, they teach, and they really are down. They don't feel great, you know. And if there's no culture around where they feel open enough to say, you know, I'd like to speak with you, I'd like to take 10 minutes outside for a moment or something like that. I think that makes it quite difficult, because then you have to kind of suppress it. So, guys, it's like we're 40 minutes in and we're only on the first point. This is crazy. I think this has to be split up into 2 or 3 webinars maybe, but we'll go through as many points as we can for now, because I would love to leave at least 5 minutes, because we've got some great questions, I think. And honestly, guys, in the chat, you have been absolute superstars. This has been one of the most incredible conversations that I've seen taking place on the right side of the panel here in the chat. I think that you're doing an amazing job of sharing your thoughts and your ideas and stuff. So please keep it up. We've still got a few more points to get through. So this is a different subject now. This is a little bit more technical, right? So new ways to evaluate. I know that a lot of educators found it difficult to evaluate lessons and assignments when there was no piece of paper. You know, it's how would you explain to a teacher what the best way is to improve evaluation during this period?
We are laughing because finally we're not crazy, right? Because we've been using this kind of evaluation or different way to evaluate for years, and some teachers looked at us like, these guys are crazy, what are you doing? And now finally teachers are starting to realize that you can't grade or evaluate anymore. A worksheet with fill the blanks, right?
Right.
And that's part of the remote learning. You need to send them activities where they can't copy, right? That's amazing, because some teachers are kind of like complaining, how do I make my students to fill up or to finish this worksheet without copying? And that is not the point. The point is it's not avoiding your students to copy. The point is that you need to send activities where they can't copy. How do you do that?
Yeah, the point is if you are sending an activity home that can be completed by copying, that's not right activity. We need to be focused on more those higher thinking skills, like activities that has an open ending, right? That there is no right answer, that maybe there are 120 right answers. So those are the activities that we need to be focused on, but not now. We need to have been doing that since a long time ago, and now we are realizing this crazy situation that it is the direction we need to be moving forward.
Yeah, as we said, right now it's even the society. If we right now ask the chat, hey chat, what is the highest peak in Asia, for example? Well, we know Everest, but something like that. What are you going to do? Or the shortest river? Get the phone and Google it, right?
Yeah. That's what I do.
What everyone does. So what's the point, right?
But now our students can't Google anything. So what's the point, right? The point is not asking an activity that asks our students, what is the shortest river in Asia? The point is to create an activity or a problem that our students need to solve using that information, right? Because they can access to that information everywhere, whenever they want. But how they use that information to solve a problem is what you need to do in a company. In the future, in their work, they will have to use that information to solve different problems. And if they don't know how to do something, they Google it.
Right? We always joke about this. I can picture my boss in the future giving to me a report and saying, okay, I have completed the full report. You just need to fill the blanks, okay? You can give me the report back tomorrow. That's insane.
Not realistic, yeah.
That's not going to happen. So why we are asking our students to do that if they are not going to use it in their future? There's no point. We see that education needs to look at the society, how the world has changed in the last 4 years or 10 years. And then adapt our education in the direction that the world is moving. The world is moving in that direction, why we're still stuck in the past. We always say, and this is one of our favorite quotes, that we need to teach like looking at the future and not looking at the past. We can't teach looking at what we have been doing for the last 5 years. We need to teach like trying to guess what's coming in the future.
Right, right. No, I think that makes perfect sense. So when it comes to the types of tasks that you assign the students, make it so that it's not just black and white. It's not like just a right and wrong answer. It's a little bit more deep than that. And like you said, in a way that is realistic, right? In a way that they can use, like we've had Bruce again say that we could be teaching these future skills, you know, not standards, which I think is really good because that's skill based. Then I love the concept that you said of a boss already filling out, giving you a form to fill out, so you just fill in the blanks. Never going to happen. Amazing. So the next one is. I think that the chat is going to love this as well. And please, this is one area which I'd love the chat to share your ideas as well. Engaging activities, right? I think that it's kind of similar to what you just said. Then, what types of engaging activities do you think that educators can do with their classes during this time?
So one of our struggle was like students were not engaged. You know, it's very hard for them to be motivated at home. You know, it's an environment that they are used to play at home. They are used to, you know, just share family time and all of that. And now suddenly they need to be working or they need to be at a school. So they struggle a lot. So that's why we try to make activities as engaging as we could, you know, as fun as we could. So breaking rooms, escape rooms,
Yep.
You know, kind of like we use Minecraft a lot, you know, to create, I would say like game-based activities are very, very engaging. And it's amazing because they are easy to create. You can evaluate them very well. You can include all of your content. So I would say all of the activities that are like game-based, escape rooms, Minecraft, all of those things, they are just great for them.
And we need to keep in mind that also we need to make that transition to our classroom. Not like the things that we learn during remote learning, which is making those activities engaging again. And we need to take those to the classroom as well. So learn the lesson and say, okay, if my students were not engaged at home, there was a problem. Like my activities were not working. So reflect on that and think, okay, so I need to review these activities. I need to redesign these activities to make them more engaged, to make our students more interested in those activities. So I think that that's a good lesson that we learn. It's like, okay, we need to change the way we do things. We need to change the way we evaluate. We need to change the way we design activities to make it more fun, to make it more meaningful for them.
Yeah, and as that, we would love to see how the people, you know, in the chat, you know, what kind of activities they created and how they made the activity engaging, because it's something that everyone can learn from.
Yeah, we've already seen a few. I think some great ideas, which, believe it or not, are on Wakelet. Who knew that? We've got some people sharing awesome Wakelet collections, some gamification collections. I think it's Cindy who shared an awesome gamification collection. I just pulled it up then and took a look at it. If it's okay with you, Cindy, I'd love to share that on Twitter after this, because I think it's really, really cool. Amanda's got a Minecraft journey as well there, and yeah, just keep the ideas coming on with that. I think that it's interesting to try and find a balance between entertaining and engaging, right? Like a lot of things can be entertaining but not educational. So I think that a lot of people, when they hear things like, I think engagement's become quite a word where it's like flashing lights, bright colors, games, that type of thing. But I think the reality of it is that we're dealing with a different generation of students now, I think, who a lot of times won't pay attention. I mean, listen, let's be honest, right? As educators, you're competing against Facebook, you're competing against video games, you're competing against social media. These stuff has literally been designed to be as engaging as possible, like scientists in a lab figuring out what sounds are addictive and what colors are the best palette, all that type of thing. So when you're up against that, sometimes you just have to kind of bite the bullet and say, okay, I'm going to try and make this familiar enough for them to be engaged and unlock those little memories, those neurons, but at the same time, smart enough to actually educate and have a really good learning outcome at the end. So yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It is like David against Goliath, right?
Right, exactly.
We always say that we need to take advantage of those things. We need to learn what our students like, and for example, use Facebook templates for our activities. Okay, create an activity with a Facebook template, Instagram, TikTok, or like those activities that students can relate. with their like personal life, even like use Fortnite like based activities, or like those things that they really love, and learn what they like to use it in our advantage.
But as you said, learning outcomes need to go first.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so just running through now, we'll try and get through this in the last 5 minutes that we've got a chance to talk about a few questions. So you've put training and getting out of your comfort zone, right? Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, we'll be quick with this. What we talked before about, it's just like
they're saying in the chat, schedule another webinar. We need like 2 3 or 4 webinars to talk about that.
Well, look, we like to be very respectful of people's time, but when we're having such a good conversation, sometimes we can go a little bit over. So I reckon we'll probably take another 15 minutes, I think, on this one. I don't think anyone's going to be worried about another 5 minutes. So please go ahead, guys. Talk as much as you want.
So I think that training is what we talked about before. It's that not only districts, but organizations like you guys around the world, all of those organizations or apps or platforms, you guys are creating a lot of content for educators. And you were creating a lot of content before, but even with this remote learning, you are creating even more content. It can be webinars, trainings, videos in your YouTube channel, different tutorials. So all of that training is for free. So a good thing about the remote learning, how, as we said before, the community, the education community, the platforms, the companies, kind of the businesses and the educators came together, to be better than we were before. So all of that training for free, it's something that we need to take advantage of.
Yeah.
And like, also like if the educator are getting trainings, we need to apply this, right? We need to go out of the comfort zone and start trying new things. And we always say that learning happens out of the comfort zone. And that's true. Like we are always pushing our students out of the comfort zone to make mistakes, because we truly think that you are learning from your mistakes. So
yeah, my students call me rude because I always say, I love your failing. Right? And they're like, you're so rude. I'm not rude. Like that's what you need to do, make mistakes.
Like if you are not failing, that means that you are, like it's so easy for you. And we don't want you to be like, the stuff to be so easy for you. We want to kind of complicate it a little bit for you to fail, to learn the lesson, to learn how to also like embrace those mistakes.
So it's the same with teachers. And this pandemic or this outbreak has forced some teachers to do stuff or to teach in a different way. And I think that is positive, because I would say that 100% of the teachers have learned something new. And that is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And I think getting out of your comfort zone is one of those things where it's, honestly, when I think about comfort zone, as soon as I'm in a situation where I feel out of my comfort zone, I try and do something with my brain where I'm like, okay, this is a learning opportunity. My brother recently did a bungee jump in Switzerland, and it was the first time he'd ever done a bungee jump, and he was telling me when he came to visit how scary it was. And he said that there's a little trick that he did where he said, I'm facing something which is so out of my comfort zone. I mean, my brother's not an adventurer, so it was really difficult for him. But then he said, I just tried to apply a lesson to it. I said, what am I going to be benefiting from with going through, with this? And he realized that, I don't know what he realized, but he decided to go ahead and do it. And he said that when he came out, he felt a new appreciation for life, all the things you'd imagine somebody come out. But I think that going out of your comfort zone is really important, and we should try and do it as much as we can, celebrate that. Even though it feels uncomfortable, a lot of the time it's just an opportunity to kind of grow and learn. Okay, we're at the last point.
Okay, before we move on, I would like the chat to drop the last time you went out of your comfort zone. Like, when was the
Yes.
you went out of the comfort zone? We want to read your adventure.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, I think. Yeah. And if anybody's bungee jumped, let me know, because I'm thinking of doing it. I think I'm going to be a different person afterwards. So let me know if that's true or not. Okay, so lastly, we're going to take a quick look at preparing students for the future. And we touched on this a little bit earlier with the skills which are transferable to higher education and also an actual job, a career. So what would you say is important in preparing students for the future, particularly during this period?
So yeah, so I think that before looking at the education for this point, we should look at the businesses at the companies. So a lot of companies during this time, they have realized that most of their employees could work from home, right? So when those companies sent their employees home because of the outbreak, the COVID outbreak, they realized that they can do the same work that they do in the office at home. So they
don't need to pay rent for the facility.
Yeah.
Right?
So most of a lot of them are not coming back.
Yeah.
To the office.
Yeah.
So they're just like, okay, work from home. So I think that the world as we knew it is gonna change a little bit. So education should change as well. So we should prepare our student for that future where they're going to have to collaborate, communicate, and all of that online. Because we were working on all of those 21st century skills. We were collaborating, we were communicating, but face to face. And we were thinking that we thought that we were doing a great job with that.
Until you get an email and the whole text is in the topic. And you say like, okay, I'm doing something that it's not working. My students don't even know how to write an email, right? So those things that Mario was saying, like we need to look at the society or the business and how it has changed and how the world as we knew it has changed. And then like kind of change the education to help the students to be successful in this new world and working environment.
And as we were talking about the skills, we need to work on those online skills as well. Because when we do collaboration in our class, we are doing kind of like a blended collaboration, I would say, which is online face-to-face. You can have a group of students collaborating, among themselves and working on a shared document or a weekly collection, all of them, right? That. But then if they have a problem, they're going to stand up and go to the other person's desk and say, hey,
help me.
Help me. I have this problem. I need help. And that communication was face-to-face. Now we moved to 100% online. So when they had that problem, they couldn't communicate face-to-face. So they were collaborating, kind of, but they couldn't communicate. That's just an example, but that happens a lot. So those skills, 21st century skills that we were working on in our classes, we need to move those things to online, or at least work on the other online skills as well.
And as Mario was saying, that idea is crucial for the students' future because there are so many researches that show that students that are now in our classrooms, they will spend more of the 50% of their time in like social time online in a virtual environment. So we also need to help those students to develop those skills that will help them to perform as well in a virtual environment.
Yeah, amazing. And I think I completely agree with you. We've got some comments here about how businesses, some businesses are completely fine working remotely and some aren't, you know what I mean? Like with Wakelet, what we really did was miss the communication side of things and being able to collaborate and just have that. Look, honestly, I know that it sounds silly, but the conversation that even we are having right now is different because it's over it's over the internet. I'm looking at a screen, really. It's difficult to pick up on body language. It's difficult to pick up on the general feel and atmosphere of stuff. I mean, it's very easy right now because you guys are awesome, but I think for a lot of people it's hard. It's almost like when you're a different person almost because you're staring into a screen. So I do think that it is important, but look, it depends, honestly. I can see a lot, like you said, I can see a lot of businesses realizing that they no longer need to actually have offices. What kind of environment and society will life look like if that's the case, where offices are no longer a thing? How will that affect people socially? How will it affect people emotionally? I really don't know. I think it's one of those things I think is so scary, is just not knowing where all of this ends. And for us and for what I've seen in this incredible community is that it doesn't really matter. It's just that we're going to try and prepare as much as we possibly can and roll with the punches and deal with things as they happen. That's been really inspiring from the educator community. Before, when you asked going out of comfort zones, let's take a look. Nancy says going to the grocery store. Going to the grocery store these days makes me uncomfortable. I think that does count. Yeah, for sure. everyone's looking at each other and wondering, you know, do you have it? Do you have it? So I get why. Lacey, this is really awesome. Lacey says, the last time I went out of my comfort zone, I took a Zoom guitar lesson with a professional guitarist. Amazing. I remember learning the guitar.
It is in our bucket list as well. Like,
oh my gosh, listen, you guys have to do it because I learned the guitar I was working abroad and had so much spare time. And I picked up the guitar, and when you first learn it, when you first try and use it, you're like, how does this even work? There is no reality that exists when my fingers somehow, yeah. And then you go on YouTube and you see people doing all these amazing, you know, melodies. You're like, this is never going to happen. But then slowly, if you just persevere and you learn a few chords, you get it. So amazing to hear that. That's awesome, Lacey. Let's take a look. Oh, this is interesting. Ines says, trying to learn about Wakelet and how to implement it. Amazing. I think that's very, I mean, that makes a complete sense. I think a lot of teachers, listen, when I'm learning a new tech platform, I'm out of my comfort zone, you know, I think it happens with everybody. John says, becoming a tech coach during the pandemic, well, during a pandemic was out of my comfort zone. Yeah.
Wow, that's a big one.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations, John, and good luck. We've got Joy who says, presenting my first webinar was really nerve-wracking the first time. Oh my gosh.
We were very nervous our first time as well.
Yeah, I have been there. I remember preparing for webinars like an hour and a half. I had to get mentally prepared and seeing all the numbers come up. Yeah. But there's so many others. Sorry, go on.
Out of all the PD that we do and everything, I think webinars can be the harder, because we are talkers and we like to make it like social interaction with people. So it's like, I remember the first time we did that webinar, it was like talking, like you were saying before, talking to a screen. It's like,
it's
that eye contact or that social interaction that we really like. So
yeah, it's tough. Well, I think that we've probably reached the end of it, guys, which is a shame. There's so many amazing things that I'd love to discuss with you all, honestly. And listen, based on the feedback that I've seen from everybody in the chat, you guys, you need your own podcast, you need your own TV show, you need 3 different podcasts. Honestly, you guys absolutely rock it. It's been a real privilege to speak with you and talk with you. I think that the ideas that you shared have been amazing. And honestly, this has been the most busy chat box I have ever seen on a Wakelet webinar. We really appreciate it. Generally, when this happens, what we do is we will share a Wakelet collection with the chat box, with all of the links that you've shared as well. So that's going to be, I'm going to be up all night doing this because there are literally hundreds of messages. All of the resources which you guys have shared, we're going to put them in a Wakelet collection, and of course have a link to the YouTube video for this. In around half an hour or so, maybe a half an hour up to an hour, you'll receive all of your certificates as well for joining us today. And I think that, guys, despite I mean, look, you guys rock, you are amazing. I think the real superstars are the people in the chat today, because the stuff that they've been sharing has been absolutely phenomenal. We had one last question, which is a little bit random. Somebody wanted to know, what is the quote behind you? What does that say behind you?
It says, collect moment and not things. It's one of our favorite quotes, because
it's how we live life, right?
Yeah, it's how we live our life. You know, like, well, it's like, don't spend money in a lot of, you know, like things that you can touch.
Yeah.
In moments,
in experiences. Like, we don't have a big TV, we don't have the latest computer, the latest phone. We just spend our money like doing experiences, activities, traveling, going out
with our friends, sharing time with the people.
Yeah. It's so important, and that's a very Spanish thing as well. I've noticed whenever I go to Spain, you guys have an amazing social atmosphere with everything. You know, everyone's very friendly, everybody, and I love the fact that you do a lot in groups. What you tend to find, I think, in the UK in particular, is that although people do go out in groups quite a lot, but you'll find a lot of people just walking by themselves up and down the street. In Spain, it's just group. You know,
yeah.
So you guys are gonna. It might change the social distancing, but
and then the COVID arrived, and that's why we are in the situation we're right now.
It's such a shame, honestly. But guys, honestly, thank you so much for joining us, Mario and Alberto. Please give it up to Mario and Alberto for taking the time out to join us today. This is definitely not the first webinar, okay? We're going to do many more in the future. If you guys would, I'd really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah, thank you so much for the invitation. Thank you for to the people in the chat that have been awesome. I have been
crazy.
trying to read through the chat, and it was just like so quick and we
I love it because I can see English, then Spanish, then another language.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So international. And we are going to drop our social media in the chat box if you want to contact us. Like just like Twitter or whatever, just like send us an email or whatever you need. We are here to help.
Amazing. And honestly, everybody who's attended today, thank you so much. I'm so sorry if we didn't manage to get to your questions, but listen, this is the first of many webinars, so please join us for the next one that we have with Mario and Alberto. Just a few quick updates from my side. So next month, we're going to be doing loads of webinars, like many webinars, all about some really cool things. So please make sure to take a look. I'm actually going to share a link with you all. This is the new page that we have for professional development with Wakelet. So put this into your bookmarks, guys, and I'm going to share it with you now. One moment. Oh, my computer's freezing because of how many messages there are in the chat. It's amazing. Okay, I'm sharing. There we go. Okay, so Mario and Alberto have just shared their Twitter handle, so go give them a follow. And then I've just shared a PD link, so click there to see all of the training that we're offering on Wakelet, including all the webinars as well. And for those of you who are looking to learn more, please reach out and ask. Like Mario and Alberto, we're constantly here to discuss things with you and to share information with you and guide you in the right direction. So yeah, I think that's it. We're 8 minutes over. It's a shame because, like I said, I'd love to speak with you guys for another hour, but thank you so much for joining us. What we'll do, guys, is if you just mute and stop your video, then what you can do is you can scroll up and take a look at the stuff that you might have missed in the chat. I'm going to do the same. We'll leave the chat open for another 5 or 10 minutes because I think that the conversations that are taking place are really good. Then after 5 or 10 minutes, we'll close it. We'll have to say bye-bye, and then we'll send you all an amazing certificate afterwards. So thank you all so much. It's been phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.